Outside the delivery room, I saw my husband. During a late-night consultation, I saw my husband outside the delivery room. Inside were his little lover and their newborn son. And I was the chief surgeon for his son. At 2 a.m., I was called to the obstetrics department for a consultation. Outside the delivery room, I saw a familiar figure. It was my husband Leo, who was supposed to be working in the UK. When Leo saw me, his eyes were full of panic, as if he wanted to say something but held back. I didn't have time to question why he was there and went into the delivery room to check on the newborn. This was a newborn with a congenital intracranial tumor, so the obstetrics department called in neurology and oncology for a joint consultation. As the oncology specialist, I naturally became the lead surgeon. Colleagues chatted noisily about the mother's gossip. The young lady is only 22, just graduated not long ago. Married before graduating? Unmarried mother, the child's father is waiting outside, quite a bit older, probably. Everyone exchanged a glance, saying more with silence than words. As a doctor, I often encounter such melodramatic stories, but I never imagined one day this kind of drama would happen to me, nor did I ever think Leo would betray me. Looking back carefully, there were signs all along. A year ago, Leo praised a student he was mentoring to no end. 6 months ago, he suddenly went to London for a 2-year advanced study, and I was always busy with work, never suspecting a thing. I realized the patient was his student, Yvonne. Ever since she graduated, the two of them had been inseparable. If it weren't for this sudden emergency, he would have kept deceiving me. Gathering my focus, I began preparing for the surgery. Regardless of whose child this was, as a doctor with a compassionate heart, I had to do everything in my power to save the baby. After 2 days and 1 night, undergoing a total of 4 surgeries, big and small, I finally saved this little life. However, due to the tumor's size and the pressure it put on the nerves, the child might develop cerebral palsy. When the surgery ended and I stepped out of the operating room, I saw Leo standing by the door with the patient, his expression anxious. "How is it, Sophia?" "The baby," my heart suddenly sank. 48 hours, 36 hours straight, I had performed 4 surgeries, twice nearly collapsing beside the operating table, yet all he cared about was his lover and the child, without a single word of explanation to me. I spoke mechanically. "The baby is out of danger, but may suffer from cerebral palsy. Please prepare yourselves mentally." "Sophia. You wicked woman. You've lost your medical ethics. Are you trying to harm my child just because you saw Leo and me have a baby?" Yvonne tried to rush at me to hit me, but Leo held her back. "Sophia, you've really disappointed me. I thought you were an honest and kind person, but I never expected you to let personal feelings interfere during surgery. What's your problem with me? A newborn baby, how could you be so heartless?" Leo held Yvonne, who was crying uncontrollably, his face full of grief as he looked at me. The colleagues around us were stunned by this sudden turn of events. No one expected me to become the protagonist of such a melodrama. Slap. I struck Leo across the face. Taking advantage of his momentary shock, I grabbed Yvonne by the hair and slapped her as well. Yvonne tried to rush forward to fight me, but my colleagues quickly restrained her. "You too, a pair of adulterers, and you have the nerve to accuse me? Sophia, give my all in every surgery. I owe that to every single person." I jabbed my finger into Leo's chest. "But you? While I was saving patients, you were fooling around together and even had a child. Weren't you in the UK? Is this what you call further study?" Leo, knowing he was in the wrong, avoided my gaze, his eyes flickering nervously. Yvonne, however, clung to Leo's arm and said, "Doctor, our Daniel will never walk again in his life." Leo suddenly looked up. "The child is innocent. You hate me and take it out on me. You are a top expert in the tumor field. How could a small tumor leave any aftereffects? Because you can't have children, you even want to harm the children of others, including mine. Sophia, you're doing this on purpose." Looking at Leo's crazed face, I couldn't understand how the cheerful boy I once knew had turned into this. This is the consequence of your reckless actions. I snorted coldly. Instead of losing your mind on me, why not think about the future of this child? Yvonne screamed hoarsely, "Teacher, those who harmed Daniel must pay." Leo comforted Yvonne. "Yvonne, let's check on Daniel first. Leave the rest to me." The matter quickly reached the dean's ears, and he granted me 2 months off to rest at home. This incident also made me re-evaluate Leo. He was a college student from the countryside. We were together during graduate school. After graduation, he continued his doctoral studies while I interned at the hospital. During his PhD, his salary was pitifully low, and I had to support the whole family. In the meantime, I got pregnant, but he was at a critical stage in his research, so I had no choice but to have an abortion. After the miscarriage, my body was severely depleted, and all these years, I never got pregnant again. Meanwhile, Leo, with the help of my parents' recommendation, quickly secured a position at the university and became the youngest professor. Over the years, he gradually grew cold toward me. I thought it was just the fading of passion, settling into family life, but I never expected he would deceive me like this. On the 5th day of my leave, I received a call from Leo. "Sophia, you actually froze my bank account and seized the property?" Leo's voice was gritted with anger. "Yes, I applied for asset preservation." "Is there a problem?" "I originally didn't want to take things this far, but it looks like we have to get a divorce now." I sneered. "I should be the one to file for divorce first. You're already so dirty, I don't want second-hand goods." With that, I hung up the phone. A woman's clarity often comes in an instant. When I entered the operating room, I still held a glimmer of hope, but the upheaval outside the door completely shattered it. A clear-headed woman is often both smart and resolute. During these 5 days off, I didn't rest at all. I took inventory of our joint assets and applied to the court for asset preservation. I want Leo to get nothing. The next day, I received a court summons. "Ms. Sophia, your husband has filed a divorce lawsuit with the court. Please appear in court on time." All the documents are ready, now we just wait for the trial." I arrived on time for the hearing. Leo was clearly prepared. Out of 365 days a year, Sophia is not home for 360 of them. Our relationship is broken. I request a divorce and division of property. "Your Honor, our relationship is indeed broken, but it's because Leo cheated." I did not cheat. Everything requires evidence. "On what grounds do you accuse me of infidelity?" I didn't even bother responding to him. Instead, I turned to the judge and said, "We have already submitted the paternity test report." "How did you get a paternity test?" Leo looked utterly incredulous, but then it dawned on him. "Sophia, I should have divorced you long ago. You've been guarding against me all these years. I've been gone for half a year, and yet you still have my genetic information." Leo ground his teeth and snarled. "It seems you forgot that we had the hair-binding ceremony at our wedding. Your hair has been kept at home all along." "Then what about Daniel's genetic information? You still claim there was no tampering during the surgery?" "Craniotomy requires shaving the head for preparation." I rolled my eyes. "You planned this all along, didn't you? You're still so cold-hearted, selfish, and ruthless." "Order." The judge couldn't stand it any longer and banged the gavel. "Judge, Leo has been cohabiting with a woman for 6 months now, and the child was born 7 days ago. During this time, he has consistently claimed to be studying in the UK. A few days ago, Leo attempted to transfer assets, but I filed for asset preservation in advance. In light of this, we request that Leo leave empty-handed and that the assets be divided immediately." "Judge, the defendant's request is granted." As he left the courthouse, Leo's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. After all, he had expected to reclaim half the assets, but instead, he ended up delivering himself to the slaughter, not getting a single cent. Not a penny of the 50 million assets would be his. Leo stormed angrily. Sophia, you really are calculating. Don't get too smug. You ruined Daniel like this, and you'll pay for it. Whether I'll pay for it or not, I'm not so sure. But your reckoning came fast, you've walked away with nothing. I smiled happily at him, slammed the car door, and walked away in style. Watching Leo's sullen face in the rearview mirror, my mood soared. Time for a big feast, double the joy. Over the years, I've been busy with work. I deserve to relax properly during such a long vacation. I had just returned from a vacation in Sonia when I received a call from the director. Sophia, Yvonne is suing you for malpractice. The hearing is tomorrow. I understand, Director, I will definitely attend. Don't be afraid, the hospital has already hired the top lawyers. After all these years of your hard work and dedication, all of us believe in you and support you. In all my years of practicing medicine, I have never made a single mistake. How could I be afraid of these slanders? The next day, my lawyer and I arrived at the court on time. Yvonne had also hired a lawyer, she was a bit smarter about it. Right from the start, Yvonne broke down in tears, accusing me of jealousy and deliberately harming her child. This accusation dragged out the fact that she was the mistress and had given birth out of wedlock. Her lawyer's face turned pale. Finally, Yvonne fell silent, and her lawyer began throwing out documents, ranging from relevant legal grounds to my alleged illegal actions, and then to the supporting evidence, ending with a list of damages and compensation claims. Yvonne really dared to ask, she actually demanded 50 million in compensation. Our lawyer calmly presented the surgical documents from that day, the surgery notice, the patient's medical records, the tumor pathology report, and clinical studies on tumor sequelae. In summary, the plaintiff's sequelae fall within the normal range of postoperative effects, and our client has committed no malpractice whatsoever. Clear and unmistakable. After all, the hospital's lawyer used to be one of our doctors. Having suffered from medical disputes before, he switched careers to become a lawyer. He knows exactly how to protect doctors. The opposing counsel was completely defeated. Yvonne was so angry she was stomping her feet. The surgery took so long, it was just a minor operation, there must be something fishy. These are the records of the surgery times and the consumables used. She's a top expert in the tumor field, how could there be any after effects? This is the clinical surgical report for brain tumor removal. In infants, the risk of cerebral palsy as a complication is as high as 90%, and the incidence in newborns correspondingly increases. Impossible, you're just jealous of me, jealous that I'm with Leo, jealous that I can have a son, you useless hen who can't lay eggs. As she spoke, Yvonne gradually lost control, took off her shoe, and threw it. The bailiff immediately stepped forward and restrained her. Without a doubt, I had won the case. Outside the court, Leo came to pick up Yvonne, who rushed into his arms, tears streaming down her face. Sophia, why are you becoming more and more selfish, cold, and contemptuous of life? People like you don't deserve to be doctors. Leo frowned, pursing his lips. You've ruined the grandson Auntie was so looking forward to, she won't let you off. Yvonne invoked my former mother-in-law. So it turned out that my ex-mother-in-law had long known about Yvonne's existence and had even accepted the child. In that case, I no longer needed to hold back. Sure enough, within a couple of days, Leo's mom called. Sophia, why can't I get into the community gate? Leo's mom's anxious voice came through. I gently peeled off my face mask. Oh, Leo and I are divorced now, and this property belongs to me. This is my son's house. On what grounds are you occupying it? You're divorced, so the house should be returned to my son. I hung up immediately. Anyway, with the property management blocking the way, she couldn't get in. Not long after, there was a knock on my door. Miss Sophia, someone reported that you are occupying a private residence without permission. Please cooperate with the investigation. I opened the door to find two police officers standing there, while Leo's mother looked on smugly. You won't open the door for me, and now you won't open it for the police either? My son's house can't be taken over by you. I ignored Leo's mother. Officers, is there a problem? I will fully cooperate with your investigation. This lady claims you are unlawfully occupying her private residence. Please show your relevant documents. I pulled out everything at once: the property deed, divorce certificate, court judgment, and property transfer documents. I divorced his son. He left the marriage with nothing because of his infidelity during the marriage, and he even had a child. All the documents are here, officers. Please take your time to review them. She's lying. My son didn't cheat, it's her who's always out of the house. She must have some other man on the side. With that, Leo's mom tried to grab the documents. The police officer frowned and held out his hand to stop her. Don't interfere with our investigation. Otherwise, you'll be obstructing official duties. Leo's mom was intimidated by the officer and fell silent. The officer carefully reviewed the files, and after a moment, Leo's mom started boasting again. Officer, he even harmed my grandson. She deliberately tampered during the surgery, causing my grandson to develop cerebral palsy. I almost laughed in anger. So Leo hadn't dared to tell his mom anything at all. I then threw down the medical dispute judgment. The case was just closed the day before yesterday. The two officers looked at it with a pained expression. The documents are in order. Leo's mom was furious. You police officers, how can you allow such a vicious woman to live in my son's house and harm my eldest grandson? She was about to make a move. The two officers began to warn her. You previously made a false report, and now you're trying to assault the police. This is your warning. One more time, and you'll be detained. My son is a professor at a university. None of you can lay a hand on me. But why would the police listen to her? They immediately restrained her. Leo's mom was furious. I get it. You're all in cahoots, part of the same gang. Sophia, you wicked woman, may you be cursed 1,000 times. You cheated my son out of his money and harmed my grandson. You can't have children yourself, yet you won't let my son find someone else. I said coldly, whether I can have children or not, and why I can't, aren't you clear about that? Hearing this, Leo's mom turned pale and was left speechless. After my miscarriage, I was resting at home. When Leo's mom came to visit, she brought some folk remedies from the village and forced me to drink them. After 3 days, I suffered severe bleeding and was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. Since then, I have never been able to get pregnant again. And another thing, the house you're living in now is under my name. I'm giving you 3 days to move out, or I'll hire a moving company to throw all your things out. You're talking nonsense. That's the retirement home my son bought for me. You've already harmed my grandson, and now you want to harm me too. Let me tell you, my son has plenty of money, so just wait and cry. The police officers directly dragged Leo's mother away as she kept shouting and cursing. 3 days later, I arrived on time with the locksmith company and the moving company at the large flat where Leo's mother lived. At my command, the locksmiths pried the door open, and the movers began carrying things out one by one. The old lady had quite a few belongings. After watching the movers work for 2 hours, I heard her voice coming from the stairs as she made a phone call. I'm already divorced. My son never cared for her, she's just a worthless doctor, and she can't even have children. The movers exchanged glances upon hearing this. Keep moving. Triple pay, I said calmly. Everyone immediately sped up their pace. Leo's mom grabbed the phone and immediately noticed the front door wide open, letting out a shocked scream. Who are you all? How dare you open my door? In broad daylight, stealing things. She grabbed a worker's shirt with both hands. I'm calling the police. You're coming with me to the station. Only then did she notice me sitting in the living room. Well, who did I think had such guts? So it's you. I haven't settled accounts with you yet, but you're the one who came knocking first. Second sister, what's going on? Has someone stolen something? Leo's mom hadn't hung up yet. My son's ex-wife is bullying me, snatching my things, and trying to make me sleep on the street. You have to come quickly. Hold on, we're on our way. The workers kept moving things out without stopping, and Leo's mom couldn't hold them back. She looked at me sitting on the sofa, stomping with anger. I'll have my son deal with you. Leo, Sophia wants to take mom's house and leave her out on the street. Come save her. The old lady put on a show, tears and snot streaming down her face. I was playing a game on my phone, ignoring her performance. Leo arrived quickly. As soon as he came, his mother grabbed him to pour out her grievances. Seeing the chaotic scene, Leo shouted, "Stop it all." But no one listened. The workers were eager to finish moving quickly to earn triple pay. Leo stepped forward and snatched my phone away. Have you caused enough trouble? That's a question I should be asking you. Have you caused enough trouble? I stood up, facing him head-on. Son, kick her out. That wretched woman, after ruining my grandson, now wants to ruin me. At that moment, relatives from Leo's side arrived, a noisy crowd of 7 or 8. They swarmed in. Second sister. We're here to help you. Leo's here too. We can't let your mother suffer. Your mother worked hard raising you. Don't let her heart be broken over an outsider. All of you, stop this right now. As he spoke, his relatives grabbed the workers and started fighting. The scene quickly spiraled out of control. Leo's mom took the opportunity to rush at me, trying to hit me. I quickly dashed into the bathroom, locked the door from the inside, and called the police. The police arrived swiftly, within 3 minutes. As soon as they got there, they first restrained the relatives who were fighting. What's going on? Leo's mom stepped forward, pouring out her grievances. That daughter-in-law of mine, she's never home, has someone else on the side, and divorced my son. Now she's still eyeing the retirement home my son bought for me. She called these people to move my stuff out, trying to kick me out. I'm just an old bone. Where's the person involved? Seeing the situation under control, I came out of the bathroom. Did you call the moving company? Yes, I did, officer. Is this your house? You're moving out just like that? Yes, it's my house, all the documents are in order. I smiled as I took the property deed out of my bag. You're talking nonsense. This is the retirement home my son bought for me. Leo's mother grabbed Leo's arm. Son, quickly tell the police. This house can't be hers, you bought it before you got married. It was indeed bought before we got married, but it was my parents who bought it for me before they got married. Impossible. My son made a fortune after his PhD and bought this for me. What a joke. Your son's PhD tuition and living expenses were all paid by me. How could he have bought you a house? Leo, what do you say? I curled my lips into a mocking smile. For a moment, Leo's face flushed red, and he stammered, unable to speak. Back then, I was thinking of your filial piety and let your mother live in my premarital house, but it turns out you were bragging to your mother. I looked at him with utter disdain. Leo's relatives overheard and began whispering among themselves. They really thought Leo was successful, but it turns out he's just a freeloader. I guess the divorce happened because the woman lost interest in him. So many years without children, maybe it's Leo's fault. The one in charge spoke up. It was Leo's third aunt, second sister, so this house isn't even yours? Then why did you call us here? She turned with a forced smile, pointing at Leo's mother as she told the police, Officer, it's not us, it's her. She called us here to vent her anger. We're law-abiding citizens, please let us go. The police officer flipped through the ID documents. Everyone, back to the station to make a statement. You injured someone, aren't you going to compensate? Several of the movers had bruises on their arms and faces. Hearing this, Leo's third aunt cursed loudly, second sister. Don't you have any idea what kind of son you have? I always said Leo is just a poor student, how could he afford such a nice house? I was suspicious from the start, but you insisted I was jealous. And what happened? Living off others. Living off others shamelessly. Now the woman's family doesn't want your son anymore, and you're dragging us into this. I can't pay this compensation, you all can pay it yourselves. Leo's mom got angry as soon as she heard it. You guys insisted on coming here. Look, my son is a professor, and you're just trying to cozy up to him. My son has never relied on a woman, all his achievements today are because he's outstanding. And it was my son who dumped that awful woman. He's already found me a new daughter-in-law, and they've had a big, healthy grandson. The two sides bickered loudly until the police finally took them both to the station. With the promise of triple my salary, the movers were happy to go to the station to give their statements. As soon as we arrived, we ran into the police officers who had come a few days earlier. They looked puzzled. Why is it you two again? I quickly distanced myself from the blame. Officers, she's the one occupying my house and refusing to move out. I had no choice but to take this step. Leo, say something. Didn't you buy this house for Mom to live in her old age? Leo really couldn't bring himself to say it, and just said, Mom, why don't you move in with me? This house was all given to Sophia in the divorce. I sneered coldly, Leo, even shamelessness has its limits. This is clearly my premarital property. Saying that, I pulled out the divorce decree, marriage certificate, and divorce certificate. The police officer looked through them one by one and confirmed, this is indeed your premarital property, but your methods are too extreme. Sorry, officer, I told her to move out before, but she refused. I had no choice, that's why I, knowing when to stop and admit fault, I'm just a law-abiding good citizen. The officer couldn't bring himself to be harsh toward my smiling face. Don't let it happen again. Leo's mom started throwing a tantrum. Why should I move? You must have tampered with the property deed. Leo couldn't stand to see his mom wronged. Sophia, I left with nothing. Can't you show a little understanding for my mom? I wanted to be understanding, even considered giving her the place, but she came to my house to call the police and falsely accused me of trying to harm her. I glanced at her sideways, and Leo's mom's expression changed, looking guilty. Obviously, Leo didn't know his mom had come to pick a fight with me. But I really overestimated Leo's moral standards. She's an old lady with little education, can't you just cut her some slack? We're already divorced. She's a stranger to me, so why should I give in to a stranger? Sophia, you're not only selfish and cold-hearted, but you also lack any love or filial piety. You've taken things so far, I won't let you off easy. Why don't you first look at the workers your relatives injured and talk about compensation? As soon as compensation was mentioned, Leo's third aunt immediately interrupted, Leo, it was your mom who called us here, and besides, our family has no money. You're a big professor, a little money like this won't make a difference to you, right? Leo's mother couldn't bear to see her son pay. You laid hands on him, so why should my son have to pay? As she spoke, the scene spiraled out of control again. In the end, the police separated them into different rooms, finally restoring some peace. Leo still refused to lose face in front of relatives and reluctantly agreed to the compensation. I signaled to the workers, telling them to hit Leo hard with the bill. The workers were pleased and, as they left, said to me, Sis, call us next time you have work. I was happy too, seeing Leo's mother flustered and furious amused me. I knew Leo would pull some dirty tricks, but I hadn't expected him to be this despicable. Outside the operating room, the video of me hitting Leo and Yvonne was uploaded online. There was no sound, only footage of me striking them. It instantly ignited public outrage. Opening social media, a flood of abuse poured in. Doctors these days actually dare to hit people? Is there no law anymore? A woman who just gave birth, so weak, and she still laid a hand on her. Someone this rotten to the core doesn't deserve to practice medicine. Revoke her medical license. Leo wanted to use public opinion to pressure the hospital into firing me. ruining my reputation. The director called, "Sophia, take a good rest at home recently, don't come near the hospital." The doctor-patient relationship is already tense, and patients' families are easily swayed by public opinion to act impulsively. I guess many people at the hospital are now trying to take advantage of the chaos to stir up trouble. The property security also called, "Resident, there's a crowd gathering outside the community. It's best if you don't go out." Leo even exposed my address online. He really wants something to happen to me. After all, it's hard to hold the crowd accountable, isn't it? At that moment, my parents called me. "Sophia, what's going on with that video? Did Leo do something to hurt you?" My parents have always stood behind me, they are my support. But they are getting older, and I don't want to worry them. Mom, Dad, Leo, and I are divorced. He did do something wrong to me, but I can handle it myself, so please don't. Nonsense. How can you not tell us if you've been wronged in the divorce? Our Sue family is not one to be bullied. I wasn't really bullied, I said, fighting back tears. I made Leo leave with nothing. What's online now is just a little trick of his. I'll settle it soon. Despite all the recent blows, I hadn't shed a tear, but my parents' concerns suddenly brought all my grievances flooding back. "Sophia, don't worry, Dad will definitely get you justice." "Dad, please don't get angry, take it easy. Such scoundrels aren't worth my anger." This matter alarmed my parents. I couldn't let them worry, so I had to quickly control the public opinion. Soon, someone posted a video with audio under the thread. "You two adulterers, and you still have the nerve to accuse me? I, Sophia, give my all in every surgery, and I'm accountable to no one but myself. But what about you? While I was treating patients, you were fooling around together and even had a child. Weren't you supposed to be in the UK? Is this what you call further study?" I also released the divorce certificate, divorce judgment, and medical dispute ruling to the media. I contacted several news outlets to share the story. The tide of public opinion instantly turned. All the harsh criticism flooded onto Leo's side. Is the professor really such a scumbag who cheats during marriage? Leo is unworthy of being a role model. Then, a student leaked a defense video. An old professor flipped through Yvonne's defense materials, tossed them aside casually, and said, "No need to look. Regardless of your defense outcome, Professor Leo will have your back." The vast majority of diligent students detest academic fraud and misconduct above all else. Once the video surfaced, posts accusing Yvonne of academic dishonesty shot up the trending list. Soon, families of patients I had treated spoke up for me. "We're from the countryside and couldn't get an appointment, but Dr. Sue specially added one for us and only charged the cheapest registration fee." Grateful. In the county town, I was misdiagnosed, but Dr. Sophia cured me with just 12 yuan worth of medicine. Dr. Sophia has rich clinical experience. My mother's brain tumor was declared untreatable, but Dr. Sue snatched her back from the jaws of death. I have to praise this generation of netizens. They unraveled the emotional entanglements between me, Leo, and Yvonne, laying out a timeline. As public opinion continued to ferment, the school couldn't withstand the pressure and had no choice but to issue an announcement. Leo was disciplined and suspended from teaching. Lift heavily, put down gently. It seems Leo has someone backing him. Then I need to see if his people can outmatch my Sue family. A few more days passed, and the public opinion gradually calmed down. Leo boasted to me over the phone, "Sophia, do you think you can take me down just by public opinion? I'm a young key talent at the school, holding over a dozen national-level projects. The school wants me to aim for academicianship. Do you think the school would give up on me over some trivial gossip?" Listening to his arrogant tone, I couldn't help but curl my lips. "Then I wish your research all the best. Leo is not only bad but also very foolish. He's a poor student from the countryside with no connections. Why does he deserve the school's special training? Why does he hold so many major projects? Does he really think it's because he's outstanding? There are plenty of outstanding people, so why him? It's only because he's our family's son-in-law. My dad is a famous surgical master, though he retired years ago and only the upper echelons of power can afford to call on him. Back then, the powerful and influential had to book in advance and send a private plane to pick him up whenever they wanted surgery. But my dad, being older now, hasn't done surgery for many years, though his status remains intact. The principal, having been tipped off by higher-ups, treated Leo quite well. But Leo, clueless as ever, actually thought it was because he was just too outstanding? I was really blind before, even thinking Leo was humble and poised, when in fact he was arrogant and conceited. Luckily, I see him clearly now. To celebrate finally seeing through this scumbag, I booked a full spa treatment. Just as I was happily enjoying the spa, Leo called. Sophia, what the hell did you do? All my projects have been halted, and my title was downgraded to lab technician? It wasn't me. If it wasn't you, then who else? I'm a good person, I don't make enemies. Oh, I deliberately dragged out the word, maybe someone wanted to curry favor with my dad, so they stopped you. Pleasing your dad? Isn't your dad just a retired old doctor? How ridiculous. Do you think you became a professor at 35 and hold a dozen national projects because you're outstanding? It's because you're the son-in-law of the Sue family. No wonder you don't know my dad. After all, your background determines your perspective. Even if the principal comes, when he meets my dad, he has to address him respectfully. I originally wanted to handle this quietly, but you forced me with public opinion. Now that my dad knows, he certainly won't let you off easy. Leo might have found it hard to process at first, murmuring, "Impossible, impossible." I didn't want to listen to his crazy ramblings and hung up the phone. Let him be shocked on his own. Leo's project was halted, his title was downgraded, and he was left with nothing. He could only live in the dormitory assigned by the school with Yvonne, the child, and his mother. I wouldn't completely ruin him, he could be a lab technician for life, enough to support the whole family. The only condition was that the child didn't have cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy would require a huge amount of time and money for treatment. 2 months later, when I was leaving work, I ran into Leo waiting in the garage. His eye sockets were sunken, and he looked noticeably haggard. "Sophia, can we talk?" I was really wrong. I opened the car door, planning to get in. Suddenly, Leo grabbed me. I slapped him with my other hand and kicked him, sending him to the ground. Leo got up and immediately knelt down, slapping himself across the face. "Please, I beg you, or I'll just keep kneeling here." I couldn't bear to lose face, so I went with Leo to a nearby tea house. "Sophia, I was really wrong. I only just realized that the one I've always loved is you. I like Yvonne, but it's only because I saw in her the way you looked when you were young. She's just a substitute for you. In my heart, there has only ever been you. I've already let her go. Let's remarry. It doesn't matter that you can't have children, we have Daniel now, and he's your child. Sophia, the people around me regularly visit prostitutes. Many have affairs with their own students. Once they graduate, they move on to another. Honestly, I'm one of the few who's kept myself clean." Hearing this, my interest was piqued. I subtly coaxed, "Oh? I've heard that the teachers at your school are all upright and virtuous. Don't just say whatever comes to mind." Leo saw my disbelief and hurriedly explained, "Men are all like this. The director regularly goes to the club, the secretary has 3 students on his payroll, and Professor Lee brings his students along to drink when negotiating business deals. Sophia, I just made a mistake that any man would make. Forgive me, let's reconcile, and I promise I'll treat you well." Hearing the answer I wanted, I grabbed my bag and was about to leave. "Leo, there's no chance for us anymore. Just seeing you makes me sick. If it happens again, I'll call the police." "Sophia, I'm begging you so humbly, what else could you possibly be unhappy about?" Ha, he couldn't even keep up the act for 10 minutes. I shook him off and walked back to the garage, planning to drive home. But next to my car, I found Leo's phone. Maybe it fell out because I kicked him so hard earlier. I entered the password and started scrolling through his messages. He had joined a research group chat, but when I clicked in, it was full of various escort services. When a man says everyone around him is visiting prostitutes, it means he's already been there himself. Then, I came across the chat logs between Leo and his mom. "Son, that little bitch Yvonne ran off on her own, which saves us the trouble of kicking her out. Just hold on for now. Once we deal with Sophia, our family will have everything. She's an only child, once her parents are gone, won't it all be yours? Her parents are getting old, you just need to endure a couple more years. Women still need to rely on men. You and Yvonne's issues aren't a big deal, just smooth things over." Reading this made my blood boil. Scheming against me is one thing, but dragging my parents into it. People should leave some room for mercy, for future encounters. I originally didn't want to take things too far, but since Leo set his sights on my parents, don't blame me for being ruthless. Ever since the video of me slapping Yvonne outside the operating room was leaked, I bought a button camera and carried it with me at all times. It was meant for self-protection. Unexpectedly, Leo's latest revelations were recorded in full, becoming solid evidence. I went back home and organized the chat records from Leo's phone, packaged them together with the footage from the button camera, and sent everything directly to the Ministry of Education and the Discipline Inspection Commission. It was time to cleanse this corrupt atmosphere in the academic circle once and for all. To prevent Leo from harassing me, I submitted an application to the hospital to go to Xinjiang for medical support. In the vastness of Xinjiang, my mind gradually found peace. In the second month after I arrived in Xinjiang, I saw the results of the investigation into the professor involved. It wasn't just a matter of personal misconduct, it exposed a whole series of academic corruption. Through Leo alone, so many flies were caught. Being betrayed was nothing compared to that. In the distance, the snow-capped Tian Shan Mountains stood tall, a ray of sunlight piercing through the clouds, shining down on the earth. My life was only just beginning.